Of course, this is a Ben Kinney production, which simply just means that you can't get mad at anybody else if I say something offensive, funny, or irritating. If you guys need to reach out to me today, before, after, during the call, I just recommend that you hit me up on @BenKinney on Twitter or hit me up on LinkedIn. Those are the two easiest ways to get me and to guarantee it's actually me that you're talking to anytime. Now, we're doing these traveling events. They're called RE8 Expo, and as you can see, they're going all around the world. So if you're anywhere around Sacramento, if you're anywhere around Pleasanton, the Bay Area, we have two separate events, one on June 3rd, one on June 4th in Northern California. If you're Canadian, close to Canada, you want to join us in Toronto, July 6th, or if you want to take a little European vacation, you can join me in London, July 14th. And I hope to see you guys. You guys want us to come to your city, send me an email, benkinney@kw.com. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, these calls are always brought to you by our friends, Mr. Dan at Happy Grasshopper. They've been making it easy for me to work with my sphere, convert leads, and find hires for my organization. And check out happygrasshopper.com/Ben Kinney for info. Today, we're happy to announce Brivity Leads. Brivity Leads generates listing leads directly to your email box every single day. If you need 50, 100, 200 listing leads a month coming to you, we can do it for you. So just reach out to us and let us know if you'd like a demo of Brivity Leads, or if you're a do-it-yourself kind of guy, check out Brivity Valuations. And if you need to manage your business, manage your listings, get more things done, be more efficient, and make your clients super happy, check out Brivity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, going global. I want to get to the point today because I have some amazing people joining me on the call. First of all, let's talk about why today that we're talking about going global. Number one, because it's safer. What I'm talking about is why are foreign entities, why are foreign buyers buying the United States? Well, it's because it's a safer investment. Same reason why they're buying in Canada. Same reason, by the way, why they're buying in the UK, is because it's considered a stable economy with stable markets and a stable government that protects their money. Number two is because of exchange rates, and we'll go through some examples and talk to you guys today about how you could specifically target some individuals where exchange rates might make it the right time for them to sell right now. And also social status. Who doesn't want to say that, yeah, you want to come down and throw a little shrimp on the bobby? I got a nice little place down there in Sydney. Or come out to our proper place and have a cup of tea, a nice cup of tea in London. It's a social status for individuals to have properties in different areas. Now, interesting research we did the other day is there's about 2,000 billionaires in the world. That's it, 2,000. That's not a very big farm, but if you're going to farm somebody, you might as well farm the billionaires. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the call, let me know, yes or no, do you know a billionaire? Type faster, faster. Chop, 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 chop. Wow, there's lots of people that know a lot of billionaires. And a lot of people that want to be one. This is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see those answers coming in? There's people from all over the place where they know them. Now, I don't know many. I don't even know if I know one personally. I think once I rented a movie to a billionaire when I worked at Hollywood Video, and I installed cable for a very rich guy once. But let's move further into this world. International real estate. Foreign investments in the United States real estate has grown 35% in the last year to over $92.2 billion in transactions in the U.S. in the last 12 months. 92 billion. Now that is, by the way, a lot of commissions. This is huge. This is truly huge. Now, some of the research we did that says that Chinese are among the top foreign buyers in U.S. homes, spending last year alone $22 billion on real estate, course, we got that information from NAR, bless their hearts for giving us such good data. But $22 billion. Can you believe that? We just had a Chinese buyer look at one of our $3 million listings in Bellingham, Washington. So we're not talking about just going to the biggest cities. These investors, these second home buyers, they're looking all over the United States, all over Canada. You go up into Vancouver, Canada, or Toronto, you'll see how much of the real estate is owned by foreign individuals today. Now, I wanted to take a look and see, well, where are they looking, or who's looking at our real estate, rather? And so I took a look at the number one increase in foreign countries that had an interest in buying in the United States. And here's what I found. Is the United Arab Emirates had the number one increase in interest. Number 2, Switzerland. Number 3, Hong Kong and China. Number 4, France. Number 5, Italy. 6, UK. 7, Australia. And of course, our amazing neighbors, Canada. Highest interest. Now, this doesn't mean that they're actually making the highest purchases. I think actually Canada holds the highest actual percentage of real estate from an outside country, and then it probably goes down somewhere around China, et cetera, et cetera. But this is interesting information. Now, I want to welcome a couple guests, because today is going to be mostly guests, and we're going to walk through some subjects. I got some opportunities to travel internationally in my life, and a lot of times I spent looking at real estate offices and talking to real estate agents, but this is a personal friend of mine and actually one of the top agents on my team. Molina, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Great. Molina is a real estate.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? Molina, we can hear you. All right. Now that we're through that can you hear me stuff, it's not a Verizon commercial, Molina. Molina is a real estate agent, an amazing one from Bellingham, Washington. She was independently with another firm before she joined ours, and she joined our team. She is the founder of Step Into Global Properties, which can be found on Facebook and also on a separate website, and she's an approved CIPS instructor. Molina, tell me about why you wanted to get into international real estate.
When I was a little girl, I lived in France, so I've always had an international passion. And when I started in real estate, we sit right next to the Canadian border, so I thought it was an opportunity that if I could tap into that market in a way other agents didn't, I would have an advantage over a market share.
And you were at another real estate company, a great company, that had a international. They had offices all over the world. But were you getting international business?
I had your buyer specialist show up at my listing with a buyer from Hong Kong who had no education in international real estate, and that's because you were overwhelming my market with your internet presence. So
you were an international.
Wasn't floating me internationally the way I had anticipated.
You were an international real estate agent working at an international real estate firm, but you weren't doing international business. My buyer's agents with no international training, they were bringing international buyers to you, and the reason that you said was because we had the buyers from the internet, which I think is interesting. So since you've joined up with me, let's talk about some of the clients. What countries are they coming from?
We have a large Asian influence coming from Vancouver, British Columbia, because their pricing has become less affordable, and the U.S. Buy-in is more attractive with some of the immigration changes they've had in the last year. So we have quite a bit of Asia looking at our what we would call a blowout sale price compared to Vancouver. And we have a huge Ukrainian population in our own backyard, and a little bit of Europe that comes in as well. It's really important to know who's in your own backyard.
So you just sold a couple $1 million horse ranch, and where'd the buyer come from?
Costa Rica, cash buyer.
Mm-hmm. Costa Rica, how fast did they close?
It was amazing, less than 30 days.
And how did that buyer find out about this property?
The internet.
Do you remember where specifically?
She couldn't name it when I prodded, but
Mm.
she found us online and the property, the way that we were advertising it, she found our property online.
So, Melina, you came to our organization and you had 5 goals. Do you remember what those goals were?
I wanted a team of 5 so that I could actually leave my business and go and teach and help international clients while my business was making money for me.
Yep.
So I wanted to provide my family with a living. Um, I have 2 kids that are still buried in college debt, so I wanted to be able to pay that off for them and have a nice way of life. I wanted to become a teacher for NAR and others, and those were my main drivers.
Well, you wanted to have investment properties. You wanted to travel internationally. You wanted to teach and train. You wanted to have a team of your own. I don't remember some of the other ones. Are all those things happening right now?
Absolutely.
So you have showing agents and an assistant of your own while working on a real estate team that's allowing you to travel and do these things. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about how do we find international agents, how do we market our properties internationally, but I'm going to do it while talking to our other guest on the call. Uh, let's see. Did we figure out Matt's audio yet? Anybody? Matt,
Hey Ben.
Brian?
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
Matt on the line. We're just trying to get him upgraded to be able to talk. So it'll be probably a minute or less. Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's go back. Hey, John.
Good afternoon, or
Good
good morning.
afternoon. How about a cup of tea, John? Would you like some cup of tea with me?
Well, I must say your accent sounds more Australian than it sounds actually English.
Oh,
But I must say, coffee. Since Starbucks arrived in the UK, I think most people drink coffee now as opposed to tea, not
oh,
unless it's inside the house.
we've ruined London. John, you guys may not know this. This dude is amazing. His name is John Savage. He's an estate agent in the UK, and he's an estate agent because they don't call them real estate agents there. So when I go there and say I'm a real estate agent, I work at a brokerage, they look at me funny, and they don't know what I'm talking about. And luckily, John's smart, so he knows how to correct me and teach me how to use the right words. And John, how long have you been in the real estate business?
On and
The
off now
property
for
business?
the property business. On and off now for the last 9 years.
9 years.
Um, Yeah, but you are right. For anyone, forgive me if you don't understand my accent, but true. Listings versus instructions. Of course, to be fair, I didn't understand the American terms for winning instructions or listings.
And you actually have a podcast, which blows me away because training and education for real estate professionals in London is not super common. Is
No,
that correct?
that is completely correct. The what I'm currently doing is only one of its kind, but my big why in life is to help as many people as I can, even if that's a competitor, because I'm more thinking of the owner of a property having a good agent, knowing what they're talking about, selling that property. So if I miss out on it, I still want to help the actual vendor itself.
So you have a real estate podcast called Property Battlefield. Uh, and I found it on iTunes. I've been listening to them. I can go to propertybattlefield.com and I can listen to them. If they're also on Stitcher, or is that what it's called?
Yeah, so it's on Stitcher Radio,
Yeah.
also on iTunes. That's right, Property Battlefield. So, of course, I come from a military background, and property, I don't know what it's like in the US, forgive me, but it's certainly a battlefield in the UK. And estate agents are not very well liked as a profession. Generally, that's the perception. But, so the whole idea of Property Battlefield is to try and raise the bar of good, solid professional agents.
Uh, yeah, I think that's interesting. I did kind of notice there when I was in London, I was meeting with you guys and talking to real estate agents, and I got to teach a class, is that in general, people don't look at the real estate profession as highly regarded. But what I thought was funny, the area that I was in, that kind of central London area, John, what do you think the average price is there?
I mean, the average price, I mean, where we were, you pretty much talking between, I don't know, 20 to 22 million pounds for a 4-story townhouse. Maybe, in some respects, actually more money, in some respects, a little less.
Say that again. How many pounds?
22 million pounds.
22 million pounds. And if you go out like a mile from there, what do you think the average price was?
If you go a mile there for where I am, you're talking say 12 to 14 million pounds if you're in Holland Park. If your listeners know the film Notting Hill, then that's exactly where I sell property, and the properties average between sort of 10 million down to small places, but we're talking 200 square feet, say 20 square meters, for about £300,000.
Okay. How big is it again?
20 square meters, which is 200 square feet, for about £300,000.
200 square feet. Wow. Wow. That blows me away.
Somebody's
Hey,
bathroom.
I was walking around and I was looking in the windows because there's estate agencies everywhere, and I was looking and I saw for rents, and I'm like, that's not a bad deal for the year. And then
Yeah,
I looked down and it wasn't for the year, it was for the week.
I know.
How much does it
I know.
cost to rent a place per week? Week.
Um, if you're going back to the average where I'm currently based, the average is probably going to be about £2,000 to £2,500 a week. But where you're talking about where your office or the guys are based is, you can be talking five, six, maybe 10,000, £15,000 a week in some instances. So it's certainly big money. It's not obviously an everyday occurrence where someone's going to be spending £15,000 a week, but certainly to spend £1,000 a week is very easy to do where we are.
And £1,000 a week would be like $1,700 US right now, guys. A week. A week. Are you kidding me? So I have a cool audience here, John, and I want them to be able to ask us questions too. So if you guys
Yeah,
are going to have questions for any of our panelists, just start typing it into the chat box so I can work it into the conversation. But I want to educate you guys on how real estate works in London, because I think this is interesting. And I think this is an opportunity for you guys to recruit agents, for you guys to maybe build a team, for you to generate referrals, for you to market your U.S. properties to London agents. I want to go through this a little bit. So in London, how is a normal estate agent compensated?
via commission. So that commission will be anywhere sort of between 1.5% and 2% of the completion price.
So
Um,
there's no buyer's agents getting paid, none of that. There's just one fee, and it's between 1.5% and 2%.
that's correct. Yeah. So as an estate agent, we will act on behalf of both the seller and the buyer. So the seller has actually instructed us to sell their property. So in effect, technically we should actually be working for the owner, which we are doing, but we also have a duty of care to the buyer as well. So there's no one negotiating on the buyer's behalf with me about what they're going to buy the property for. I'm actually doing that negotiation on
So
behalf of the
you
seller.
almost never have a cooperating agent on a transaction. So if you instruct a property or list it for us guys back here, you have to go find your own buyer, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. So we have to find the buyer. So we're reporting to everybody. It's not. It's I'm reporting to the seller and I'm reporting to the buyer pretty much on a daily basis about where we are, where the transaction's at, who's doing what, who's responsible for what, and how we're progressing in terms of getting the deal through to a point of exchange of contracts.
And since it's your responsibility to find a buyer, the seller often will list or instruct with multiple agents, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So it's certainly dependent on the seller's position. If they're in a position where they need to get the property sold, then they will act or ask for multiple agents to operate in terms of getting that property sold. But each agent, of course, is still looking for that one buyer or those buyers to compete in order to purchase the property. So yeah, more than one agent and the agents don't generally talk to each other either. So it's certainly it's not like a cooperative scenario where I believe that the way you guys work, it's more not a very nice competition.
Okay, I understand. Uh, which means you don't normally show the addresses of your properties, correct?
Exactly. Because if, let's say, for example, if we were to show the address of the actual property and we didn't have a signed contract back from the actual seller to giving us that instruction to sell, then that means another agent just walk straight in there and say, I've got a buyer for you, and then that's it. We just lose or commissions.
Wow, that's crazy. And what does the normal estate agent make, or what is the percentage they get from the brokerage?
Um, as like a negotiator person working within a company.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
guys, in the UK, there's the agency, which is usually one guy or gal owns it, and then he hires negotiators that kind of acts like us, right? Because as a negotiator, you guys prospect, negotiate deals, find buyers, go on instruction or listing appointments. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then we do that on for the actual deal completing. That's what we've earned as a commission. I would get £1,500 of that, so 15%. But then other agents more will only receive 10% of the actual deal size.
So of the 2% that's charged, you're going to get about 15% of that.
Correct.
Okay, but you guys get a little salary on top of
That's
that,
right.
correct?
That's right. So we would have a salary, and we'd also get a car allowance as well. Plus, of course, things like having the desk, having a mobile phone. So all the facilities and tools we require in order to obviously find the buyers. So certainly it's not all bad. It doesn't look like it's really a bad scenario. Especially when you build quite a big pipeline, then it's fair enough. The office is taking the hit on office costs. We're taking the hit on maybe our own time in order to find those buyers and get it through to a successful completion.
Okay. Uh, what do you think the biggest challenge is in London right now for the real estate industry?
I think the biggest challenge is, and I'm seeing this change really on a daily basis. Is more information based, because everybody can see so much online. The actual agent in many respects is being cut out. People are already believing that they know the value of their property before they've even spoken to the agent. When you've got, like, for example, say Zoopla giving price estimations, and people say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, John. Zoopla said my property's worth so much more than what you've just offered me."
Yeah.
Which is, well, okay. My question to that is, has Zoopla actually been round to your property to give you an estimation? The answer being no, and it's like, right. So it's a poor scenario, but lots of people are actually believe in that. And also, you've got so much competition in my area alone, in a postcode called W10. There's over 100 agents operating in that particular area. And you think, if there's only 200 properties on the market at any one time, on average, in that particular location, that's 105 competing with each other. So potentially it could be spread quite thin. Lucky for me and my office, we actually do quite well. So we're generally at the top of that tree. But still, it's a big competition.
Matt, let's unmute Matt for a second, because he has an interesting story that kind of works along with John's. Matt, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me now?
Hey, Matt, thank you for joining us and letting us interrupt your holiday weekend vacation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce, number one of my best friends in the world, and an amazing guy, Matt Fedek. He's the mayor of his town. He's a backup EMT. He was a police officer. He owns a real estate team that's in the top 100 in the nation. By the way, this year he's in the top couple in the nation. He's kicking butt. He owns real estate brokerages in the United States, and he's just opened his first one in London. He's a master faculty trainer, which means he travels the world teaching, and he has an international real estate team. And Matt, I don't want to talk too much about our U.S. stuff, but you're a kick butt agent. What made you interested in exploring as an individual United States agent, saying, "Hey, I want to expand to another country"?
It's so many different reasons. But one of it really was, as you just heard hearing from John Savage, who, by the way, I think is a phenomenal agent, really has a desire to really improve the industry in London, and his podcasts are fantastic. But when I was there on vacation, I just experienced in trying to do research on property that the customer service was not very good, getting follow-up was not very good. In talking to friends that live in London, their experiences with their agents in the past was not good. And it just got us thinking, how could we bring the best of the U.S. Way of doing real estate sales and take the best of what we do with the best of what they do in London and combine them? And because people kept saying, we want to change it, we want to make it better, but we don't know how. And as an instructor and trainer, my passion is teaching and fixing things like that. So that was what the big precipice was. I felt that it was in my skill set to open up an expansion team and office in London, because where the weaknesses were in that industry are my strengths, which is teaching systems and tools.
Well, Matt, let's go back to the why for just 1 second. What is considered a fast response from an agent on a sign call or an internet inquiry in London?
So I was there on vacation, and during our vacation, we inquired on 4 different properties. One actually called us back the same day, but it was late in the afternoon. It was about 4:30, and our inquiry was before breakfast. And the other one called 2 days later, and the other one called when we were back already in the U.S.
Wow.
So we were already out of London. So, and the other one never called. So out of the 4 inquiries that we made, we only had one that called back, and it was about 7 hours later. And,
wow.
you know, as we looked at some of the things that we learned from you in IMSD and our response times and how important that was, I knew that there was an opportunity there to really improve customer service. And when you talk to people in London who bought and sold property, they will tell you over and over and over again that the level of service and the responsiveness just doesn't exist.
I just had one of our attendees just wrote us, interesting, I just contacted 14 agents on Wednesday for a buyer client and received 1 call back. These are on actively listed properties in London. That's funny, Liz. Yeah. And maybe call John Savage because he'll handle it for you.
Yeah, I'll call you back.
Matt, you decided to start a real estate team. What do you think the financial upside is for you? What do you think you could do in commission this year from it?
So our first year goal was to do 500,000 in GCI, and we think that's really possible. It certainly helps the average sales price being much higher, although the commission percentages are much lower, and because there's rarely a second person in the deal. Most of the time you're selling your own listings, or as we call them in London, instructions. You've been instructed in London. In the United States, sellers list their property. In London, vendors instruct their agents. So as we learn the terminology.
Yeah.
But our goal was 500,000. Well, actually 500,000 pounds, so the equivalent of about 750,000 U.S. dollars.
You know what's interesting is you're going to bring in 500,000 commission, and you have one deal right now that could bring in $1 million, right?
Yeah, we do.
Ish. Yeah, one deal.
Yeah.
And you're going to do this with how many agents on your team there?
1.
And how many staff members?
None. We're supporting it from our hub here in the States. So
why don't you need
here in the States are supporting it?
Why don't you need a ton of staff in London?
Well, the big difference is that the administrative work that we do here doesn't exist there, because there's no contract writing. It's all done by attorneys. So we're not writing contracts. We're only putting together offer letters. And then when that's done, it's moving on to solicitors that are really negotiating the details. We don't have the renegotiations after inspections happening. So the transaction itself is much smoother on behalf of the agent. So you don't need a lot of staff. So what we're supporting from the States here is the marketing piece, designing the marketing tools, and the direct mail pieces that we're doing for farming.
Yeah, so instead of the model that a lot of London people are going by, which is, they work for a firm and they get 5 or 10% of the commission, you're kind of changing this into a world where in London, if you're a real estate professional, you can get 100% of the commission after you cap. You're really taking the model of the brokerage that you run back here in the United States and doing that in London. Talk to us about what has your results been in opening a brokerage in London, and why, and what you think the huge opportunity is.
Well, the opportunity is, if we can find agents that are entrepreneurial in spirit, that really have a desire to work at a high level. If we can pull all those things together, we will be the best option for them in London. As John mentioned, most agents in London currently receive a small salary and a very small part of the commission. I mean, just a very small piece of it. And so by going with our traditional model, which is to be agent-centric instead of brokerage-centric, where we focus on agent development and the agent making the lion's share of the commission, we hope that we will attract more entrepreneurs who see that value in improving the industry, improving their skill set, being training-based and learning education-based. By doing all those things, we think that we can help to improve the industry overall. We'll attract stronger agents that are more long-term professionals, and that we will help improve the industry overall.
You know what I think's funny is when I was there a couple of weeks with you when you were teaching and I was teaching, and we were recruiting agents and meeting with agents and meeting amazing people. When I met all these brokerages, as we call them, or estate agencies as they call them, all of them are just big real estate teams. I didn't see any brokerages there. I saw large real estate teams. Do you think that's kind of what it is?
I would say that is absolutely what it is. It is more, really, if you looked at most of the offices there, a big office might be 10 agents. So you might walk down the average street and find, 5 or 6 agencies on the same block that have 4 or 5 agents in them. And what you're really finding is that it's the MREA model. It's really a mega agent team. So what you really have is a rainmaker who then has other agents in the office, of which they call negotiators, who are working the leads that he or she has generated. You do have large firms. Certainly, you can't overlook, Savills and Knight Frank. They're very big and fantastic firms, but the upward growth potential is really limited because you only have one branch manager, right? So, the upward growth for an agent, the career path is just not there in those large firms. It just doesn't exist.
And Matt, as you're creating a traditional brokerage that is going to accommodate teams or estate agencies to work underneath that brokerage and leverage it, what do you think the upside is for you financially for a brokerage?
Well, we certainly think it's fantastic. We're launching a Keller Williams franchise there, and so in our model there, which is really very agent-centric with a capping commission dollar, for us, when we look at it, if we can build a network in our first office of 100 agents, which would be extremely large for London, but when we look at that, the average sales price and the volume and the units that go behind that, we really expect that our office there could be, the most profitable in the system. If we really, when everything is working, I think it could be the most profitable in the system.
And what do people have to do to get a real estate license to sell real estate in the UK?
Breathe. I mean, there's no licensing requirements whatsoever. So anybody can get a license. There are people that just go out and try to put deals together. And so that's the other piece of it. We want to bring our training piece to it, and we want to raise the bar on what it looks like to really call yourself an agent. So that we're bringing our tools and our training and pulling all those pieces together so that we can really raise the bar and do a better job with that.
So let's go through some of the topics that we're going to talk about on today's call. We're going to talk about global online websites, global real estate agents, international portals, geo-targeted advertising, print advertising, and then networking and conventions. So here's what I thought. I was thinking if John, you still with me?
Yes, still here.
Is there an MLS that that all agents put every one of their properties into in the UK?
Yeah. So, for example, you've got Rightmove, Zoopla on the market. You've got some others which the big ones bought, but certainly every agent will add their properties to those portals.
But they don't put addresses on there, do they?
No. no, no, no. Not at all. I mean, if there's a signed contract, sometimes by mistake an address goes on, which interestingly, and I mean, I love your model, but or the American model, but the address sometimes does appear, and you quick get it off, which is for me, I think is wrong, is backward thinking.
Yeah, so there's really, you guys have portals that advertise properties for the individual agent, but you don't really have any MLS where people share back and forth. What I think is funny is that every single country has a unique set of websites. Like we have Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia and the independent brokerages websites, etc. But we don't necessarily have one that if somebody lived outside of the United States, they would know about. John, just out of curiosity, do you know about Trulia or Zillow?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So you're somewhere else around the world, and you have no idea who these biggest property provider search engines in the United States are, and you're in the industry. So what I thought was interesting is if you want to find international clients to buy real estate in your local area, they're probably not going to do it on these places that you guys are used to generating business. But internationally, John, do you know what Google is?
Of course,
Do you
definitely.
use it?
I do every day.
Do you use classified services like Craigslist?
Don't use Craigslist, but I'm certainly aware of it.
Yeah, but there's other things in your area similar to Craigslist, right?
Yeah, similar, but we don't personally, our office don't personally use anything like
Okay.
that.
Do you guys use Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah, we do. Not as much as we should do, but we do, of course.
and LinkedIn?
Yes, and LinkedIn as well.
So here's what I think. When you look at these places, these are probably the best way for you to promote your services and your properties internationally, because no matter where you are in the world, they know about it. Since there isn't centralized MLSs in many countries, they post properties on classified services. They post them on their private websites on Google. They're using all these different places. So what Molina was saying when we got on was that her first international clients didn't come from what she thought they would come from. They came from us finding buyers that typed in investing in the United States, buying a property near Vancouver, Canada, Bellingham, Washington, Seattle, Washington, those sort of things. And now she had an international client because they all use these different sites. Then what we had is I want to talk about was marketing to global agents. And I want to start with Molina. Molina, you're one of the best networkers I know. Tell me how you've been able to find international agents to network with.
Can I kick back one step, Ben? There's a stat from the French bank BNP that states that 50% of international buyers search on a local website. So once they go through that Google search, because Google is the master, they're going to kick into whoever's there locally and at the top of the SEO. So it's just an interesting stat I thought I'd throw out at you. As far as networking with global agents, there are a lot of different ways that I do this. There is an opportunity through NAR at their conferences to do networking, and you can be country specific. They have set hours. Keller Williams has now started that process too. So as you go to your local brokerage events, search out some opportunity to meet with agents. And it's pretty much the cream of the crop. These are folks that travel to the US to attend a convention, and they're usually top producers who can afford to take the time off of work and come and network with us. So it's a great opportunity. The other thing is that the internet is the master. So I connect with a lot of global agents on Facebook. And I have them set up in my search bar per country. So if I need to find John, I can quickly put John into my search bar, but at the same time, if I'm looking for an agent in Africa, I have it set up so I can search any of my agents from Africa.
You're utilizing Facebook list.
Yes. And then I also have, I created before we had the Facebook business pages, a website. It's international. realestateagents.info, and it's a community that I set up for global agents that were either international players or CIPS designees that do business across the world, and invited them to participate there to let us know about their local area, their local business practices, and their local properties that they had for sale. When I was advertising the horse property that you've made mention of, I connected with some of my UK agents there because it's a huge equestrian opportunity, and the UK still does a lot of print advertising. And based on their commission, when I sat down, well, via email, and explained what I would pay them as a referral fee if they procured the buyer, I had one agent actually have me write out the math 3 times just to verify that he would receive a check that large if he brought me a buyer. And he started advertising the property in print and also on his website, and some of the online, I don't know if he made it into Zoopla, but some of his online resources he was able to, through our partnership, advertise that property for me, where some of those big buyers might be interested in taking a look at little old Bellingham, Washington.
Hey, John, if
Yeah.
if I had a property that I thought might be appealing to people in London for $2 million, which is nothing for you London folks, and I said I was going to give you 30% of my fee, which I'm going to get probably 3%, and I was going to send you a check for $18,750 US, would you be motivated to share that with your people?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And that would be far, far greater than what the normal estate agent gets per closing on even one of their owns, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You're talking 10, maybe 10 times the amount.
10 times the amount.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Matt, you and I were there, and you just signed this big deal to market these properties overseas for this big, huge development, fancy stuff. What are they asking you to do? Tell us about these launch parties.
Well, look, it's very typical, and I don't know the exact stat, but I think John may know, but a good percent, and I want to say it's close to 50% of the property bought in London over the last several years is bought by non-UK residents. And I think it's close to 50%. And so it's very typical with the new builds for the developers to open up sites all throughout the world and sell those properties online or in offices internationally. So, for example, the developer we're working with right now has an office in Shanghai, they have an office in Dubai, and they take their 300-unit building and they offer 50 units available in China, 50 available in Dubai, and they bring people in, they have a launch party, they put the floor plans up and the pricing, and people will literally come right by and just start writing checks. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So we're looking to do very similar launch parties where we can introduce the product to U.S. investors here in the States and give them a chance to also invest in UK property.
So you're literally like throwing a party where you show images and stuff of the properties, inviting people in there, showing them the pro forma, and getting them to buy basically sight unseen, right?
Well, for sure, that's how it's currently working. In China and in the Near East. That's certainly what's happening there. And so that's our plan, is to try a model here that would be similar, where we would have we would go into New York, work with partner agents there to bring their investors in, and they're buying it what they call off plan. So they're buying it, and quite frankly, a significant amount of the property that's sold in the UK is not only sold off plan, but it's even sold before they even put a shovel in the ground. They have 100% of the units sold. So there's such an attractive market to be in. The United Kingdom is really stable economically. The pound is a very stable currency. They're part of the European Union, but they're not on the euro. So it's a very stable economic, place to invest money.
I was thinking one of the things that you did is you and your team is that you went out to that developer and said, you should pay real estate agents in the United States a commission. And he said what?
Yes, we did. He said, if you'll sell like you do in the States, we will. I mean, it was really amazing. The very first appointment that we went on with this very specific developer, and I think he did this to test us. He asked us if we would meet on Sunday afternoon when he came in from Shanghai. He was flying in from Shanghai and for work. And so we met him at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. And when we got there, he looked at me and he said, wow, an estate agent that works on a Sunday. He said, that doesn't typically happen here ahead of time. And understand, I am not bashing or saying anything negative about the agents in London. It's just a different way of working. That's all, right? So has nothing to do with right or wrong or people doing a bad job, but it does have to do with a different way of doing it. So he said, I'm just so impressed that you would come in on a Sunday to meet with me. Well, then the next thing I did is I pulled out my iPad to start taking notes. And he said, gosh, we just don't see, agents showing up with iPads on Sundays to take notes. And we said, we're looking for this prospecting-based type of sales agent. And that's how we were able to get that deal.
Hmm. Hmm. And
so just hear me clear. I'm not saying that, we're so much, it's just a different approach. Our approach on real estate in the U.S. is very much a sales-driven, prospecting-based, marketing-enhanced approach. And that is not typical in the United Kingdom. They're very hard-working agents. They're very smart. They don't have access to an MLS with a lot of data. They know it. They know their product. They know their properties. They can tell you what it's going to sell for. There's really good quality agents, but it's a different type of selling, and it's a different style of agency relationship with clients.
John, you get to the office about what time in the morning?
I actually arrive at 8:30.
And then what do you do for your AM? What are you doing there?
My day?
Yeah, like literally, what are you doing in the morning when you get there?
Okay, straight away in the morning, I'm doing a thing called that I call 10 in 10. So literally, I'm straight on the phone talking to people that are potentially, or have had their properties valued by me, maybe not currently on the market, and I'm just literally prospecting, is what I'm doing. But I feel like if I just drag it back just slightly and go back to what Matt's been saying, he is so right and is so true. I think the American way, the American system, the American philosophy is so much more personable than a UK system. Very rarely will you get UK agents going out on a Sunday, but yet, look, I do that, and it's nice. People buy through me because they go, wow, if he's going to turn up on a Sunday, this is amazing. But I would say 90% actually do not do that at all. If anything, it feels more like a chore, when in reality, if they did, they will be so much more successful. And also, just dragging one thing back just very slightly again, the 2 years up to 2013, it was actually 70% of new build properties were sold to foreign investors, which meant 30%, just British indigenous population buying those properties. The rest were foreign buying new build properties. And as Matt said, those properties haven't even been built yet. Just last week I had a Chinese lady actually living in Singapore call me up and said, listen, I've got 7 properties, can you sell them for me? She had paid for them, and I was like, okay, brilliant. Where's the keys? She said, no, they haven't actually been built yet. The completion date is in September. Oh, okay, fair enough. So it's a daily thing for me. Routine is literally I'm attempting to call the world. There's a saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but if you go a stage further, it's not who you know, it's how many people know you. And that's certainly what I'm trying to do. But the thing about call stats, when a call comes in, by the time that person's been called back to actually register their details for that particular property, Matt is very correct. It's done very, very poorly. People don't get called back when they should. They should be called back, within an hour max. But obviously well before then anyway. The moment that email comes in, they should be called.
Hey, have you ever heard of a website called Proxio?
No.
No. Okay. Just out of curiosity. In the world, each country has their unique real estate portal. In Asia, China, I think it's Juwai, and Australia, the biggest real estate search portal is actually owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns most everything in the world. But he also now owns Realtor.com in the United States, which I thought was interesting. He also owns one of the largest property auction websites in Australia. Uh, let's talk about the UK portals. Now, I know you got two major ones, and now there's this brand new one. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so you've got Rightmove. Rightmove is a property portal where pretty much all the estate agents advertise their vendors' properties on that site. You've then got Zoopla as well, which are not as big as Rightmove, but still are very big in their own right. And again, there was a thing called a duopoly. So if you weren't on those sites, your properties weren't really being sold or seen. And then the owners didn't really want to give you their property because, obviously the major sites are not, well, your properties are not on those. And then the third one just recently, which was to try and break up the duopoly, was a thing called On the Market. So On the Market is actually being run by estate agents, essentially trying to, just break up the monopoly that both the other two had.
You know what I
The
thought was
only
funny about that one was if you join on the market, you have to do what with the other two websites?
Okay, so you'd have to choose one or the other.
One or the other. So if I want to be on benkinneysportal.com and you want to have your properties there, by the way, you couldn't put it on Zillow or Realtor.com, your choice. That's the way it's working there. Now, is there they built this big gigantic portal and all the agents are on board and they're high five and they're saying cool. When I talked to some agents when I was in London, they said, yeah, but I'm getting no leads from it. Nobody actually goes there. What do
Yeah,
you
I mean,
think?
it's, I think what I would say to that, yeah, the person is correct, but then the for me, and I mean, look, this is my own personal opinion. Um, uh, Not that much is coming from the other two anyway. So yes, there are obviously leads that are coming through that, but On the Market is new. A lot of people in their minds they're thinking Rightmove or they're thinking Zoopla. They're not actually thinking On the Market yet. So I think it's an incubating period for those guys. But I think for the last 3 months they've had 10 million hits On the Market have. So it is really starting to ramp up and starting to go well. But again, my own personal opinion is on it. I don't know. I mean, without getting too political or sensitive, is we do get charged quite a lot to be on these portals.
Well, Zoopla, how much money do you think they made last year? Matt, do you remember what it was?
I think it was something like $1 billion, wasn't it, or something stupid?
Yeah, it's a public company, and it was. This is what got the agents all upset. Is that they made their net profit last year was just over $1 billion.
You know what? I think the interesting thing is the agents try to come together and make their own portal, which is great and fine, and we'd all be behind it. But they aren't investing. They don't have set aside 100 million or 200 million to advertise that portal, so they end up with a place that has all the listings, but they don't necessarily have the traffic. And people think that they monetize our listings on portals, but really what we're doing is we're paying for their audience. We're paying for their traffic. And a good agent is going to say, how do I siphon that traffic off of that portal so that I never have to send them back there again? Because once you get the contact, that contact should be yours for the rest of your life, and they should stay on your website. But I want to carry on and go to a couple more of these questions. And geo-targeted ads, what you guys can do is you can go to Google, you can go to Facebook, and you can go to LinkedIn, and you can put on there only show it in London, only show it in China, only show it in the UK, only show it in Canada. And I've been running ads in Vancouver, Canada, and Canada in general for a long time that you could only see if you were within Canada. So my competitors never know the types of ad that I'm running because I'm running these ads in different countries. And you do that by setting up pay-per-click ads on Google at google.com/AdWords, or just go to adwords.com, and you can run these geographically targeted ads that would allow you to generate real clients that are international looking to buy real estate here. And you can do the same thing on Facebook and the same thing on LinkedIn. I just want to point out that you could have an international exposure that none of your competitors know about by simply running geographically specific ads. Now, I want to talk about print for a second, specifically with John. What's going on in the UK as far as print advertising for properties? Does it work? Where do you guys spend your money?
We will spend our money on things like the Evening Standard, which is a free newspaper, or things like local press, or maybe local magazines that are really quite sort of luxury magazines. If I'm going to be completely honest about the situation, it's nice to be nice and nice to be seen, and having a full-page spread going across 2 pages in the middle of a paper, but I've never actually been called off print. I think it's more about just brand awareness as opposed to actually the property specific.
So just like in the United States, we do it to make our egos look good and our sellers happy, but it still doesn't sell anything. Huh.
Yeah, correct.
Weird.
Now, in reality, if
go ahead, man.
In reality, if you talk to John and you talk to other really good agents, the UK market is about 7 years behind where we are as far as philosophy in marketing and customer service. So, and they're in this fantastic market for sales, but in reality, the things that they're doing currently now is the stuff that we were talking about when I first got into the business 7 years ago, when we were just now, it was about that time that we just stopped getting out our display ads. We were doing them and saying we knew we weren't going to get any return on it, but now we don't do any of it, right? We've kind of gotten to that place where our clients don't expect anymore because we know there is no return for it. So they're just lagged behind us in that approach, which is as far as marketing strategies and where to spend your dollars.
Mm. So I've met a lot of international agents before I actually ever went overseas, and I met them at NAR events, and I know Molina does networking events at NAR. I met them at brokerage events at our own brokerage because we're inviting international people to come in here and get franchises and network, etc. One of the coolest places that I met people is at the Inman Connect conferences, and there's one in January in New York, and there's one in July in San Francisco. And I don't miss either one of them. I'm there every year. So Brad Inman's a friend of mine. I don't get any money for this, but I did ask if I could invite my attendees to connect. And if you guys wanted to see me there, I'll be there. But if you want to go, it's an expensive event. It's 3 days long, but it's worth every dollar because you're not going to hear stuff like you hear at other conferences. Entirely different. Economics, international, technology, real estate focused conference for 3 days in San Francisco in August this year. Use the discount code BENOFFER and you can save $250 off the registration, which is huge, 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 huge. And then online networking. How can you meet some of these agents online? Molina, talk for a second about what you've done to network yourself that you haven't already mentioned.
You just brought up LinkedIn. LinkedIn has some great opportunity through groups. I believe you're allowed 50 groups. I always leave it at 59 so that I can move it about based on the conversation that I want to have. But you can go in and start conversation. The other thing about LinkedIn is that you can search international agents. They have a search bar that allows you to really connect with the right people. So another thing would be the NAR liaisons. If you know that you have a property in London that the majority of the foreign national buyers were coming from a specific spot, you could actually get a hold of the NAR liaison and find out who you should chat with there. There are just different ways online to do some of that networking. One of the things that I would make mention of too is, as Matt's going into the UK and listening from John, is just being really aware of how the practices vary. And some of the ways that you can do that is by, there's a CIA fact book, World Properties, which is what you mentioned earlier, Ben, and Proxio, that's the back side of it. But you can handshake with different folks, and when you do that handshake on World Properties / Proxio, it gives the other agent an opportunity to advertise your property. So you're saying, yes, put it on your webpage, blog about it, let me know how I can support you to procure a buyer. And then also just to be aware of those practices, the kiss, bow, and shake hands. So you
That's
not only
that's a book, right?
yeah. but they have some online sources too. But and you can be country specific. So you need to know the client and their practices, but you also need to know the agents and their practices, because real estate is done so differently in each of those countries. So is it an attorney drawing up the form? Are there commissions? Is it a license practice, or is it just anybody who's driving a cab and doing real estate on this side, right? So you
Yeah.
really want to know how business is done within the networks that you're starting to have a conversation. Right now, Ben, we have a pending transaction that the property is in Bellingham, Washington. The owner is from Iceland, and the parties are divorcing. So I have the husband to be, or ex-husband to be, is in Africa. She's in Iceland. The buyer is from Canada, but he's truly second generation Ukrainian. So as we're there's not a there's nobody involved from the U.S. standpoint. The property is here. So understanding the practices, the timelines, the currency conversion, the taxation that will happen on that property when it's sold back to a foreign national from our government. It's just really good to be really educated with the realtors as well as the clients that you're serving, and it'll help you network in the right groups.
Molina gets a lot of Canadian buyers, and our team does, and so do a lot of people. But, if I was an agent that I knew that had a lot of Canadian-owned properties in your area, I'd be marketing to those people, because right now, $1 is worth is equivalent to, how's that work? It's an 80%. So it's 20% less valuable Canadian dollar than it is U.S. So by them selling their U.S. properties today, they get 20% more Canadian dollars when they sell. And they could wait till the market recovers as far as the dollar to dollar, and they can make a huge increase on the value of that property by selling today, if that guys makes sense to you. If I didn't cram up those numbers too bad. Molina, were you just going to say something?
I was, because your marketing dollars then are focused on the right part of the market. So depending on that currency exchange, it's going to mean whether I'm trying to connect with sellers selling properties on the U.S. or my buyers coming in to purchase some of our U.S. properties. And it also means how I'm networking with the agents across the border to let them know the best deals of the week, right? So they can present that to their client base sitting in Canada when the currency is in their favor. At the same time, as the currency hasn't been in their favor, me getting a hold of the title company and finding out who the foreign national owners are currently, and then marketing to them as being the international expert to help them get their property sold if maybe they're thinking about turning that investment into something different on their side of the border.
Hey, Matt, what I think is interesting about this international stuff, and what I think is kind of funny, reciprocally, is that right now you can use your exposure to international to help you get listings in the Philadelphia area where you live, and you can use your exposure, you're doing work in London, and the fact that you have a U.S. brokerage to help you get listings in London. How are you leveraging that right now?
Well, that really is a big part of the goal. So in our area in the Philadelphia suburbs, as we've been pushing to break more into the luxury market here, our value proposition now is not only how do we market your property here, but now that we're going to be able to give you international exposure. And we have that ability not only just through London, but because of the relationships and the different people we know, is to really push it out internationally. So one of our value propositions for our luxury listings is the ability to get international exposure. And we truly now have names and email addresses and contacts of agents in London, in Dubai, in Shanghai, in Beijing. When we say that, we're not just literally giving lip service. We truly have that ability to take the properties there.
Hey, everybody on the call, just so I know how you're feeling. How are you feeling about today's subject and the information you're learning? Type that into the chat box for me so I can get some updates on what's going through your sides, or through your heads. Matt, I think this is huge. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, while they're doing that, Ben, what I hope people are hearing is that that the world is shrinking, and this is a real opportunity, right? I mean, when I look at the opportunity for us to sell international properties, see, in the U.S., the United States is such a large country, right? More than 2 times the size of Europe of all of Europe. So when you look at that and go, we get stuck within our borders, but the rest of the world is not stuck within their borders, right? So it is very typical to be in London and say, oh yeah, I'm going to Germany for the weekend, or I'm going to Spain for the weekend, and it's very typical to travel internationally because you're really talking about the size of the United States. When you look at the European Union, so it's a real. Our method. We're just so used to staying within the states. The rest of the world is used to getting out of their country and vacationing outside of their country and transacting business outside of their country and vacationing even in the U.S. So I want to just give agents that are out there who think, gosh, this is way beyond me. How would I even get started? It's totally possible, right? And I think just like Molina said, they would start in getting involved in meeting other agents, connecting with them on LinkedIn, understanding the ability to market their properties. The world is shrinking really fast because of technology, right? I mean, we have John on the call who's sitting, either in his office or at home in London, and it's shrinking. So I want to encourage everybody who's thinking, I have family, or I have friends, or I've got a relative who works in Europe, or something like that. You can be a part of that sales transaction in the future of real estate for those people if you want to. You really can. It's right at your fingertips.
I got so jazzed at this visit, coming to see you and speak and meet all these great agents there, is that David drew up the BK UK logo, and I'm ready to fly that flag, BK UK, all around town, and take advantage of these opportunities, and being in business with people like John, and being in business with people like you, Matt, and taking Molina's vision for being an international trainer and speaker. This is cool. This is all working together. But agents in general, I don't think we realize the opportunity to leverage this to help us get listings and beat out the competition, because they're not talking about this, and they're not, even if they do talk about it, they don't have these tangible ways to expose ourselves internationally. So what I consider this is a Ben Kinney webinar on international real estate 101. But I'd like to do, if you guys want to come back, is I want to do like a 201 where we dive in more to the international portals, get more in depth to some of this information, and figure out how more tangibly you guys can create this into your listing presentations or into your marketing strategies, and how to connect with more awesome people like John. And I'd say you guys gotta go listen to some of his podcasts. He's interviewing some wickedly smart individuals in London that you guys should be learning from. And John, what is your advice?
When I met John, I was so intrigued by his podcast and his vision. What was really cool about John is that his vision for training and education matches our vision for training and consulting, right? His vision really matches up. And so I was excited after I met him. I downloaded all of his podcasts and listened to him on the plane on the flight home because he's really smart. He asks great questions, and he got something there. But I'll tell you, if there's anybody on the call that has friends or family in London, in the United Kingdom, or even in Europe, if they have connections, they want us to help be a resource to help them make connections for referrals, we'd be happy to do that. And anybody that feels like a calling or a passion to get involved on a higher level, they should reach out to us after the call, and we can kind of talk about what that would look like if they want to be involved more on an international level, because there's a lot of good opportunities there.
And also recruiting and referring agents your way. I know that Molina and I are members. Our franchise, Keller Williams, has the GPS program, which gives us a ton of tools and tons of international specific training, and we get access to Proxio and so many other things. So check with your own major franchise and see what sort of international program they have. And if you happen to be at Keller Williams, then check out GPS as well, because it'll give you a super head start as far as the knowledge, technology, and expertise that you need to be an international specialist. So, John, what do you want to tell us about being international?
I don't know. I think meeting you guys really, and having this call, or meeting Matt in London, for example, it just you are right. Matt said earlier that probably the Americans are 7 years in front of the UK when it actually comes to selling houses, and I definitely agree with that. So instantly, my horizons have been broadened by looking at the international aspects. And I think personally, if it's an opportunity, if you can take it, take it. You know.
Everybody's asking what your podcast is called, and everybody's asking how do they get a hold of you. So number one, I'm sorry, but number two, you want to share it with us?
Yeah, of course. So the podcast is called Property Battlefield. It's the Twitter handle is at Papa Bravo. Papa is spelled Paph Bravo. And essentially what it's about, I mean, for example, don't forgive me for saying this, Ben, but having you on my podcast, I certainly wanted to have you on because, of course, your success, and I wanted you to tell everybody how successful you have become and why. Meeting other guys in London and sharing the book, Million Dollar Real Estate Agent, awesome. I'm telling everybody to buy that book. And the podcast really is about helping absolutely everybody. So that everybody may be another real estate agent that wants to understand how the English and Welsh systems of buying property works. Or it may be an owner of a property that needs to understand how a lease extension works, or if it's a freehold property, what exactly does that mean? So I interview professionals within their field and expertise about how it works. So for you, Ben, it's success. For a solicitor, I think you call them attorneys, but for a solicitor, it's about the different fields that they work within and their expertise within that field or that subject that we're discussing. And then others, I speak to solicitors about the process from the beginning to end. So the last podcast I released, episode 30, was pretty light, but it tells you what the buyer has to do and what a seller has to do. And it's not me saying it, it's an expert in the field actually saying it for the benefit of everybody else.
John, do you use WhatsApp or anything?
Yep, certainly.
No. Will you hit me up on that after the call? I haven't connected with you on there, but I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to track you down, and so we can chat faster more often. We gotta talk a little bit about Happy Grasshopper and thank them for getting everybody on these calls and helping us. And they haven't paid us a dime. They're just friends, and they're good. They're good product that I use, and they're super cheap. And for the Brivity team that's in the background, you guys don't know this, but to make these webinars happen and to keep them going throughout the entire time, there's 6 to 8 people in the background promoting, answering your questions, just doing these things. And we have an amazing team back there, and they're working with this amazing product. And as you guys see in the next couple of weeks, email templates are being released potentially this week, if not Monday. Email campaigns, the new design, everything is coming super fast. We have 3 times the amount of developers and designers, and I think you guys are going to be seeing some things that'll blow your mind. And the price of Brivity goes up after we release the final version, probably around August, mega camp time. If you need listing leads delivered directly to your email box, please give us a call. Brivity Leads is exclusive, so there's only a couple people per area, so you need to see if your area is already sold out. We had hundreds of responses on the last webinar, and it's filling up because we can only deliver so many listing leads per area, but I would expect 80 to 100 per month coming in directly to your email box that will just blow up your listing business. And from Matt Feddick to Tim Heil to Sue Adler to these agents that are using our other tools, reach out to us if you guys want any demos. If you want a city guide or learn how to do vendor advertising, call us. And Matt, thank you for being on the call. And Molina, thank you, my dear friend. And John, you took your time. I know it's nighttime, probably right in the middle of your dinner, and I'm sorry for interrupting that for you. And you guys, thanks for being on the call. I hope you reach out to all these people and meet, because you had a chance to meet 3 amazing individuals today. So God bless you guys, and I'll see you on the next webinar.